Death Stranding, the notoriously confusing and super weird new game from Metal Gear Solid creator Hideo Kojima, has been shown off in more detail than ever at E3 2018. Finally, it all makes sense. Oh no, wait, the total opposite! Seriously, what the hell is this?
Why is Leia Seydoux snacking on maggots? Ah!
Okay, and breathe. No, seriously, while the latest Death Stranding trailer doesn't give us many clues, there are a few things that have come somewhat into focus and given us enough material to start building elaborate corkboard-filling theories with. Most of this will probably end up being really wide of the mark, so apologies in advance, but here are the things about Death Stranding we think we sort of maybe understand a bit, in a way. We always sort of knew the character played by Norman Reedus would be the main character, but now we know, or think we know, a bit more about him. Specifically, we think he's a delivery guy. This Death Stranding gameplay is filled with scenes of Sam lugging boxes across a rugged and unforgiving landscape, sometimes with the assistance of sort of adorable floating luggage droids. And occasionally his cargo is a little, unusual. We just hope Sam doesn't work for a restaurant and this is what takeout looks like in the sci-fi future. Ew. We don't know exactly what Sam is in charge of transporting, but we do know who employs him thanks to his badge. This logo matches one seen in an earlier trailer for the United Cities of America, so perhaps Sam works for whatever remains of the US government in this grim future. Moreover, we reckon Leia Seydoux' character works for a rival firm, maybe. Fragile Express certainly suggests a delivery company, and so does the tagline, handled with love. At one point, she asks if Sam wants to come work for her.
Want to come work for me? Which
honestly he should strongly consider, especially if it means a job where you don't have to pull your toenails off. Ah! It really seems like rain plays a big part in Death Stranding, and we're willing to bet it's somehow tied to why society appears to live in these bleak little outposts. What's interesting is how keen Sam is to avoid the rain. He's always decked out in waterproofs, and on the one occasion when he takes his gloves off and reaches out for the photo he lost, a drop of rain seems to burn the paper. Then another drop burns his hand, so, acid rain perhaps? But then there's plenty of lush greenery around, so whatever's in the water isn't affecting the wildlife too much perhaps. And if there is something bad in the precipitation, it's clearly not making the rivers deadly. But why then is everyone so keen for Sam to avoid the downpour?
There's tons of them.
Can you sit out the rain?
No.
Well, perhaps it's all the moisture it brings attracts these nasty invisible creatures. Oh, and we have a theory about them too.
Watch yourself. Those things never stay gone for long. The time flow fast forwards whatever it touches, but it can't wash everything away.
There were hints of meddling with the flow of time in previous Death Stranding trailers, but it seems all but confirmed now that the spectres that hunt poor Sam make time accelerate wherever and whenever they touch. If you want proof, just look at how these handprints cause plant life to bloom and then immediately wither in their vicinity. It puts us very much in mind of the spirit of the forest in anime classic Princess Mononoke, but slightly more unnerving. Being grabbed by these monsters is very bad indeed, as previous trailers demonstrated.
We're surrounded.
And hey, it doesn't look like it's a barrel of laughs here either, to be honest. Jeez, who wants to have their timeline accelerated to the point of death? How could one possibly protect against such a terrible fate? Well, guess what? We've got too much coffee in our bloodstream and a crazy theory about that also. Now, okay, the babies are an insurance policy is a slightly dark sentence, but here's our thinking. These babies, the one everyone is carrying around in these weird jars, are clones of the people carrying them. Notice how Sam pokes this needle into himself and then, hey presto, he's got a baby, with none of the morning sickness or discomfort when sitting down that usually goes along with that. Sam spawns this wriggly little tyke just before he heads out into danger, which makes us think that it's a way of protecting against the time-advancing powers of the shadowy floating nasties. If you get grabbed, you'll be killed by old age in mere moments, but that same time-warping effect will make your clone grow into an adult at the same time, and thus you live on. Pretty nifty, right? And it would explain why the person on Sam's radio isn't worried about him getting got when he steps out into danger.
Sam, if one of those things eats you, it'll trigger a void out. You'll come back, sure.
So if you can clone yourself safe with a jar baby, why worry about getting grabbed by spooky hand ghosts? Well, here's why, we think, maybe. We reckon that when you recover from being grabbed by ghosts, it takes something out of you, or at least the experience leaves its mark. Quite literally, check these subtle handprints that cover Sam's arms whenever we see him in a state of undress. Don't they look quite a lot like the handprints you'd get when this happens? Moreover, check out this older trailer, which finds Sam underwater and naked. We're guessing because he's just been claimed by the horrible shadowy ghosts. So according to our theory, he's a recently aged baby clone here, and oh my god, what are these words we're saying? What is this game? No, come on brain, back on track. Anyway, look what appears on Sam's body when this happens. A new handprint, which implies that every time he's killed, it has a permanent effect. And when Sam is asked what his quote level is, he replies,
I've got the extinction factor.
When asked if he can quote, see them, he says,
No, but I can sense them.
surely he's talking about the spooky floating ghosts, and surely all this extinction talk means he will, eventually, not be able to come back. Maybe he'll reach his limit and become one of the time-warping ghosts himself, and maybe we need more sleep. When Sam is cornered by creepy enemies, he gets this telltale warning.
Sam, if one of those things eats you, it'll trigger a void out. You'll come back, sure, but the surrounding area will still be a crater.
This suggests an extra bad consequence of being time-warped by ghosts, alongside the handprints and the obvious unpleasantness of being dragged into the ground, we mean. We think it means a literal explosion, and if you look at a previous trailer, that idea is kind of backed up. In it, we see one of Sam's colleagues consumed by a horrible being, this one much bigger and more frightening than the others seem to be. When he comes to, his baby tank has gone dark and he's stood by an actual crater. At the time, there was no reason to think these two events were connected, because honestly, there was no reason to think anything was connected to anything back then. And let's face it, maybe there still isn't. But we live in hope. Hideo Kojima has hinted before that dying in Death Stranding won't break your immersion in the game, and furthermore that kicking the bucket could see you trying to recover items you've lost. This sounds very much like how death is handled in Dark Souls, where if you die, you have to make your way carefully back to your corpse to get all your stuff back. And yes, we know we must now put a penny in the Dark Souls comparison jar, but honestly, it's the first concrete notion we've had of what Death Stranding will be like to actually play, so forgive us if we cling to it like a Norman Reedus clinging to his baby jar. So those are the things we think we might have possibly a little bit more or less kind of maybe put together about Death Stranding. Oh wait, hang on, something's happening. I think we're about to figure out what these maggots are. Oh no, wait, that was just us being sick in our mouths a little. Never mind. What are your Death Stranding theories? Shout in the comments if you think you've worked something out, or let us know what you think of our baby time theory. And if you enjoyed this, then why not subscribe for much more? Okay, now we really need to lie down.